All right, are we recording?
Yeah.
What up?
What up?
We're back, and we have a different name for this show.
Yeah.
I'm glad this is only the third episode.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We may have said it in the other episodes, and honestly, if it's like not weird, we might be able to cut it out. But who cares?
Either way, it was called Throned, but we found another podcast that's kind of similar, or too close to it. So we're going. We were between two names anyway.
So we're going with the first one.
So now the podcast name is Throne Thugs.
Throne Thugs. It kind of goes. Yeah.
Because I love punny. I like punny.
Yeah, he likes to be punny. If you haven't realized that with the other podcast name, so
Boom.
so we originally went away with it because we were like, well, let's go with this one, and then the other one's like it's too similar. So.
Holly goes, it's kind of hard for me to say.
Yeah, I do have trouble saying it. Throne Thugs.
Throne Thugs.
I have to enunciate.
Throne Thugs in Harmony.
Throne Thugs in Harmony. That would really throw me off. But
no, you just said it.
Yeah, because you just said it.
Yeah, we're in good shape. But either way, I'm sorry to throw you for a loop, but you're not going to give a shit in another 2 episodes after this.
Well, because we're going to put it under Throne Thugs anyway.
Yeah,
so
for
you're
sure.
just going to know it
so
as
really,
that.
I guess you're just going to hear it on the first couple episodes, which will be kind of funny.
Yeah, so... Yeah.
And then you'll be like, yeah, I remember when they weren't even called that.
They were a different name.
So anywho, we what was this episode called?
This is called Lord Snow.
Lord Snow.
Episode 3.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you ready?
Let's run it down.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. I can get my NPR voice on.
Hey there.
Hey there.
Some really sweaty balls.
sweaty balls. So it opens with the group riding into King's Landing, the Stark group. It's implied, I don't think it's directly said, but after the killing of Lady, the dog, not the dire wolf.
The dog wolf.
The dog wolf. The Lannisters ride ahead.
They're like, fuck this noise.
Yeah. I think in the books the Starks ride ahead, but in the story it seems like Jaime's already there when he shows up, so it seems like they rode ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a little weird. But anyway, so they split up, but we see the Starks riding into King's Landing. Immediately this guy walks downstairs and is like, hey, what's up, Ned? You are requested by Grand Pycelle, who's like 1,000,000 years old, and he can't wait for you, so we need you right away. Which it's like, I just rode a month to be here.
Yeah.
Like, can you give me a second?
For sure. Yeah, he's like still on his way in.
Yeah. And then the guy has the balls to be like, do you want to change first?
And he just looks at him because he's been riding on the horse's back.
Yeah, exactly.
For how long?
I
month.
mean, it's like a
month
month to
journey
take a month.
With like you stopping and
Yeah.
picnicking and shit.
Exactly. And I mean, it's Robert.
Yeah.
It's the king. They stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's at his choice or they're just like, we need to stop because he's the king, So it cuts to Ned entering the throne room. Jaime's seated at the foot of the throne. I don't think we have to talk about the fact that thing looks really puny compared to
my God. It is so underwhelming.
Yeah.
It's like this is the whole...
It's what you guys are fighting over.
It's in the fucking... Like... This is the thing, and it's just like, oh, walking in, here's a door, walking in these doors, oh, there's the throne, there's Jaime. Like, Jaime's,
Jaime looks cooler than the throne does.
For sure. It looks so shitty.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
And also, I feel, again, it's what the show is about. I mean...
essentially, it's the representation of the kingdom.
Of what, yeah, for sure.
Kingdoms.
So, like, I feel like they would have this slow, like, unveil like these big ass double doors open,
boom,
and like it's like, oh shit, there it is. Or you're
I get that it's a first season, so HBO, and it's not a hit TV show.
Oh, but I mean, maybe also we're seeing it through. We're getting it from his perspective, which is like, I don't give a fuck about this place.
That's true.
So he's walking in, and it's like, yeah, okay, great, we're in here. I haven't been here in a while. I don't really give a shit. Oh, good. There's Jamie. This will be fun.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I never really thought of it that way. Is that he doesn't really care. So if you look at it from the perspective of him, that
not
room
whimsical.
is not very. Yeah, I guess in other shots we do see that room as being a lot more grand.
For sure.
So I mean, I get that it's probably more just budgetary, but it would be interesting if it is direction.
Yeah, again,
Yeah.
it was just very underwhelming.
Yeah. So excuse me. Jamie's seated at the foot of the throne, as I said. And then as he sees Ned, he says, "Thank the gods you're here, Stark," which is obviously dripping with sarcasm.
For sure.
They have some witty banter about how they both dislike each other, and how the hand position is like basically like, oh, so the king shits and you clean it up, right?
Yeah, you're here to kiss his ass and just pretty much do everything he doesn't feel like.
Yeah. They say something about this one was a wordy episode, so it was a little harder.
It was
to say.
wordy. It was like, I was pretty tired today anyway, and then I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
please let something like blow up
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just. I mean, it was good.
Nothing's blowing
They're
up.
always like really good scenes and really good conversations.
Well, and a
but
lot of names and people.
for sure.
But he said something about Jamie's armor that I missed, which I think was like, oh, it's clean of like marks, because that sounds like a Ned thing.
Oh,
and
he says he's like.
he
oh,
says people have been swinging at me for years, but they always miss.
and he says, "Oh, you've picked your opponents well."
Yeah, yeah. So some more foreshadowing for
Little
you.
back and forth there.
Yeah, a little, So then he says it must be strange for you coming into this room. Jamie says that to Ned, because the throne room's where Ned's brother and father were killed by the king, Mad King.
That's where all that shit went down.
Yeah, and Jamie says that they didn't deserve to die like that. Ned says, like, how could you just stand there and do nothing? And Jamie's like, 500 other men stood there and did nothing.
It is weird that he would single him out.
Well, because he's like, well, you killed the Mad King later, so why didn't you do anything
Yeah,
before?
why didn't you start earlier?
Yeah.
Saving people.
Yeah.
But I mean, he didn't I mean,
Well, Jamie,
he hadn't
in
started
essence, Jamie did save people. People just don't understand that. He saved everyone, because the Mad King, when he says burn them all, which we're jumping ahead a little bit, but
I mean,
we all know
everybody
what's happening.
Again, everybody knows
When he
this
says
shit.
burn them all, he's saying it to the maester, which at this point is one of the like dudes that's obsessed with fire, like the pyromancers, and he's telling him to burn the city. So what Jamie did is he killed the Mad King, and then he killed the pyromancer, who was the hand of the king at the time. So it's like Jamie actually, and essentially, he saved everyone in the kingdom, or at least in King's Landing, but no one sees that because no one knows that story because Jamie can't tell it.
And he's a sarcastic,
Pretty boy.
uppity, pretty wise ass
Who it fucks his sister.
that smashes his sister on the regular.
Yeah. So anyway, they talk about how they hate each other, and Jamie says that later when he was stabbing the Mad King, he heard the laughter that the Mad King had from that day. Oh, I missed a line. I liked this line. We skipped over it. He said the room was silent as a crypt except for the screams and the Mad King's laugh, which is pretty
crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't. If we ever do get a prequel show,
Which I feel like it'll happen.
yeah, I would bet that. Well, or a flashback at least. That would be an interesting scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least we're gonna get that. There's no way they're not gonna capitalize on
Such a
like
visual
bringing that.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Visual.
Yeah. Jamie says that again when the Mad King died later, he heard that laughter and he felt it was justice. Ned says, hey, I pretty much still hate you because you stabbed him in the back. Jamie says, would it be any different if I stabbed him in his chest? And Ned just kind of walks away.
Yeah. It's like, well,
Nah.
I
He's
got
like, I still
nothing.
don't really like you, and I think what you did was wrong. Like Ned will always think what he did was wrong because he doesn't know the whole story. And also he stood by while his family died.
Yeah. So he's just never hyped. He's
Yeah.
never gonna be hyped on that.
Yeah. So Ned continues walking, and he goes into the like royal meeting room. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, Lord Varys, who is the spy. I can't remember what they call him. Anyway.
You really are at NPR right now.
Am I?
You were getting a little
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, anyway, so Lord Varys is there, Littlefinger's there, Pycelle's there, and Renly's there. Renly's the only one that's like basically nice to Ned.
He's the brother, right?
Yeah, he's Robert and
Youngest brother.
Yeah, he's the youngest. What's the other one? Oh my God, Stannis. Ooh,
Stannis.
using my brain tonight.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and I haven't really read ahead or recapped anything.
Yeah, it's been a while since we watched
time.
the show.
Yeah. So anyway, pulling them out sometimes. So anyway, Renly and Ned have a moment, and as he walks in, Lord Varys says he talks to Ned, and he's like, "I'm sorry, we're sorry to hear about what happened on the road." And then he's like, "We're all praying for Lord Joffrey's recovery." Like anyone gives a fuck about that. And Ned was like, "Yeah, what about the butcher boy?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then nothing said there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, did you not even know about that? Or did he just not mention it because
no,
that
he didn't
kid's
mention
not
it because
worth mentioning?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that Lord Varys knew about it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, Littlefinger, after Ned and Renly have their moment, Littlefinger immediately, he interrupts, and then he immediately brings up Catelyn, making things awkward. He talks about how he's always been so hot for her.
He
and
really
still is.
he
very
doesn't
blatant about it.
Yeah, pretty weird that he doesn't understand that that's not really.
No, he does. He's stirring Ned up.
I guess, yeah, he
That's
wants
what
to
he's
do
doing.
it. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so, he says that Ned says, "Hey, do you remember what my brother did to you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I bear that scar from my belly to my throat." Because, Littlefinger's not only fucked with Ned, he's also messed with Brandon, who was Catelyn's first. She was supposed to be married to him first before he died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, betrothed. That's the word I was looking for.
Word.
Betrothed. No, betrothed. Pycelle gives Ned the badge, the seal of the hand. The little thing he wears to be like, hey.
Handpin.
Yeah, handpin. Sean Penn. They confirm that the king doesn't attend the meetings. He delegates tasks to them because
he's
he doesn't
probably
want to do it.
eating or sleeping.
Or having sex.
Or sleeping, getting ready to eat, or smashing, getting ready to eat.
Definitely
and then do some
drinking
sleeping.
if
Definitely,
he's conscious.
Definitely drinking.
Yeah. They talk about the tournament that the king has ordered. And they say that the amount that will that the crown will go into a little more debt, but who cares? Because they're already $6 million in debt.
Yeah, but the prizes are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like it was like 10 grand, 20 grand.
Yeah.
Holy
like, I don't know
shit!
I don't know. Well, it's like gold, but I don't know how. Like
I would still assume it's a shitload.
I mean, I would assume.
Yeah.
They say that the king in the hand spent all the money, basically. That it was Littlefinger's job to find the money, and that the king in the hand spent it. And Ned's like, I don't think that Jon Arryn would have spent that because that's not the man I knew. And they were like, well, sometimes Robert's a little hard to control.
And there it lies.
Yeah, and he's got a vivacious appetite.
Dude. Yeah. I mean, does he have to pay for anything though? I mean, besides like.
Well, the kingdom pays for it.
That I guess like
we
him being in debt means the kingdom being in debt. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. We pay for it.
I got you.
Yeah. So, we'll talk about that later. Ned says, hey, this whole thing's not necessary. Why spend this money in my name? I do not want that to happen. And they're like, well, let's go ahead and plan for it anyway. And he's like, well, let me talk to the king. Don't do anything. And he's like, we're not going to do this. And they're like,
and he barked at him because he's tired.
And then he's like, I'm sorry. I wrote a month to get here.
And you want me to have a fucking meeting.
You demand me to get here. And then you insult my outfit. And yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're telling me I need to go into debt just for something I don't even want to attend.
You say I don't have the proper gear on.
Yes. So he apologizes, but he says, like, I'll talk to Robert. So it cuts to Joffrey being a little baby because his little hand is her, or his arm is her.
He's getting his puppy bite.
Yeah. His puppy
wrapped
bite.
up.
He's like getting like an ointment and then a wrap.
Yepers.
Yeah. So Cersei's like, calm down. It's basically healed.
She's like, yeah, you little bitch. It's like she knows he's a little bitch, but
yeah, but she says
it's her son, so she's got to be like, well, maybe I can turn him into
well,
not
it's her
such.
son, and he's supposed to be the king. So she's like, well, you have to kind of change the perspective of the story to suit your narrative. Like, a king should have scars. So instead of saying, like, you got bit, because Joffrey's like, oh, I just got bit, and then I fell down, or I fell
And I
down,
screamed.
and I screamed, and they saw all of it. And she's like, well, no, that's not what happened. You fought off the dire wolf. She's like, just change the story.
Yeah, because in 10 years, that story becomes true.
Yeah,
I mean,
because,
it's
like,
been said 1,000 times.
it's not, like, yeah, no, nobody put it on Instagram. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
Joffrey is like, I don't want to marry Sansa. Like, not interested.
Yeah, now he's not.
Yeah.
Because she's seen.
She saw it.
Yeah, she
She
saw
saw
his,
him be a baby.
his bitchness.
Yeah.
He's like, can I get a girl that just thinks I'm a beast
Yeah. So.
full time?
Yeah, exactly. So Cersei's like, well, she's very pretty, and you're gonna do it. So get over it. She's like, but here's the thing: like, if you don't want to see her, you don't have to see her. If you just want to see her when you have to make babies, then that's fine. If you want to, be very uncomfortable and say something like, if you want to fuck painted whores, then fuck painted whores. And it's like, that's your 12-year-old son. Whatever.
Yeah, but they grow up fast, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there, it's
I would
like,
assume
well,
he's
12, he's going to have a kid in like a year. So
Or
I
he's
guess
gonna
you
be-
would be talking about that.
He's probably going to start getting some whores, like, within the next year or two.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or I guess now that his mom has informed him,
Yeah. pretty
or
much.
already informed him of what's going on.
Yeah. She says to do something nice for the Stark girl. He said, I don't want to do that. She says, well, you're going to.
No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, Joffrey says that they think that the Starks are given too much power, the North in particular, I guess. He says that they believe that they're the Lannisters' equals, which, like, bitch, okay, your house is newer, and you don't own nearly as much property as the Starks. And also, those guys are gonna save your ass one day.
For sure.
Yeah. So Cersei's like, okay, so what happens if the North rebels? And Joffrey's like, I'll crush them. And she's like, okay, so you're going to get 10,000 Northern troops. Are they going to fight for you, or are they going to fight for the North? And he's like, me. I'm their king. And she's like, yeah, the North can't be held. It's too big and too wild.
Oh, no. She's like, so they're going to come fight for you? I'm not asking.
Oh, yeah. I'm not asking. Yeah. Yeah.
What a fucking twerp.
Yeah. So she basically says, rethink your plan, but you're right. They are the enemy. That's your basis of the plan is right. Just fix the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all downhill from there.
But he's just throwing out 12-year-old ideas.
Yeah. But I mean, he gets the general point.
Yep.
Yeah. So it cuts to Arya. She's playing with a knife. And by playing, I mean, she's stabbing a table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she's in prison.
Yeah, pretty much. They tell her to stop. She says, I'm practicing. They say, what are you practicing for? And she says, Joffrey.
Which is pretty raw.
Yeah, it is. She says that Joffrey's a liar and it's Sansa's fault that Micah died. Arya sent her room. Ned overhears that last part and he sends her to the room. And he gives Sansa a gift, which is a doll. She is not happy with this.
It's like, yeah, that's
You're about 8 years too late on
really
that.
cool.
Yeah.
The fuck are you thinking? I mean, that's even bad for like a complete dipshit dad. You think
Yeah.
your like daughter that is like almost looking like a woman wants a doll?
Yeah, but
How disconnected are you?
yeah, I don't think Ned is very connected to Sansa.
Clearly.
And also, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess you always kind of look at it is a male. You might always look at your daughter as younger than she actually is.
What do you get a 14-year-old girl in those times?
You got me.
I
A
mean,
book?
like, it's not like there's things that, clearly for kids, it's like, hey, there's like, we made this wooden thing, or here's this doll. But then when you grow out of that, what the fuck?
I'm sure Ned.
I guess that's when they start to learn how to, like, or you have kids now, or you're like,
Well, I mean, in the book, Sansa and Dany are both 14.
So I guess
So
it's really like
I mean,
time to.
Danny's pregnant, so
Yeah, there it is.
I mean, it's time to be mommy.
So I guess you don't get much of a childhood. So
Nope.
really, it's like once the doll is done, it's like, oh, it's time to have a real baby now.
Yeah. And that's
We're gonna
probably
trade
what
this
he
in
didn't
it.
understand.
We're gonna trade this in.
Yeah, is that she's like, I'm trying to be more mature because I'm ready to get married to Joffrey because we're so in love. And he's like, I want to give you this doll because I don't want you to marry Joffrey.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Isn't that the first time she saw him?
Joffrey?
Yeah.
Yeah, is he rode into Winterfell?
When they got to Winterfell?
Yep. Yeah, that's the first time.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not good looks. So, she gets up and leaves, and Ned basically gives up. He says that war is easier than having daughters, which is a pretty funny line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure my dad would agree, but he's never been to war. So, Ned then goes to Arya's room. She has Needle out. He's at the door, and
I think she's
like,
gonna
"Go
hide
away."
it, but she's just like, I'm gonna answer the door like I'm gonna fuck him up with this thing.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like, "Where'd you get that?" And she's like, "It's mine." And he inspects it.
I found it.
He found it. He inspects it, and he's like, "Well, I know who made that. So it was made at Winterfell. So what's going on?" She won't tell him where she got it. He says a lady shouldn't play with swords. She says, "I don't want to be a lady." He sits down, and she's like, the sword's name is Needle. And he was like, "Oh, named Blade."
Blade with a name.
Yeah. And he asks her if she knows anything about fighting, and she says, "Stick them with the pointy end," which he says, "Well, I mean,
The essence of it.
yeah." She says she wants to learn how to fight, that she had asked Micah to show her how, and that it's her fault that Micah died, and that she hates all of them. And by all of them, Sansa, Joffrey, Cersei, the Hound.
Everyone you would expect.
Yeah. Ned tells her that Sansa is going to marry Joffrey later, and that she has to side with him no matter what. And
Which is a giant fucking bummer.
yeah, definitely. And Arya is like, "Well, why would you allow her to marry someone like that?" And so Ned's like, "Well, look, you were born in the long summer, but winter's coming, and you need to look out for each other, and we're in a dangerous place, and there's some things you need to do, and there's some things that we have to follow to keep in line and keep us all safe." And so he tells her, they can't war among themselves. And she's like, "Well, I don't really hate Sansa. I just do right now." Ned says, "Well, you can keep Needle, but not please don't stab Sansa." And then he's like, "Well, you need to learn how to use it."
And then where did the instructor come from?
Ned sends him.
Okay.
Yeah. So we cut to Bran. He's looking out a window, and a crow shows up. Old Nan is in the corner. She's knitting. Is that what she's trying? Crocheting.
Oh yeah, something like that.
She's talking about stories. She asks if he wants to tell her, or if he wants her to tell him a story.
And she's like, "Oh, do you want me to tell you the story about this night? It's always your favorite one.
Duncan the Tall.
Duncan the Tall. It's always your favorite. Blah blah blah." And he's like, "Nah, it's not my favorite.
The creepy ones are.
I like the scurry ones."
Yeah. So she talks about a time when the snowfalls were 100 feet deep, when winter is deep and long for several years, and the long night comes, which is when the sun hides for years, and people are born and live and die in the darkness. The White Walkers come through the woods. Kings freeze to death. Women smother their babies in their sleep instead of letting them starve
or freeze to death.
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah, and she talks about the long night. She says that's when the White Walkers came for the first time. She said riding their dead horses and pale spiders as big as hounds. And that's when Rob walks in and interrupts the coolest story.
Yeah. It's just getting good, bro.
Yeah, seriously. And he says, "I want some time with Bran." Rob tells him some story about how once when he was young, Old Nan told him that the sky was blue because they were in a giant's eyeball. And Bran was like, "Well, I don't really think she's full of shit, so."
He was like, "Maybe we are."
Yeah. Rob asks if he remembers anything from the fall and how he's feeling. He's like, I've seen you climb 1,000 times through, all types of weather, and you've never fallen before. But Bran's like, I did this time.
Did this time?
He asks if it's true what they say about his legs, and then Bran says that he would rather be dead than crippled.
I can totally agree with that, especially being, how old is he supposed to be? 10?
Yeah, I think so. Roundabout.
Yeah, so you're like full of energy, like prime energy.
Well, and
like
he clearly is like a little squirrel climbing on
Oh,
stuff.
I know. I mean, I was the same way at that age. Like, I would eat half a box of Little Debbie cakes, go outside, and just climb the tree like a maniac.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I couldn't imagine. Also, how far did he fall? Fuck.
I mean, it was a tower.
Seems like it would be like, what, like 3 stories?
It's a tower,
like
so
that?
It would definitely be probably 3 stories. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So we cut to King's Landing. Catelyn's arriving. She says that it's been 9 years since she was there last. She doesn't think that anyone's going to see her or recognize her. Immediately, they're stopped. She's like saying like, "Oh, no one knows I'm here." And then they're like,
Yeah, on the way in.
Lady Stark. And it's like,
Hey, we're
what
expecting
the
you.
fuck? Yeah. So she's been instructed to follow them, and she's handed a scroll when she kind of argues. It's obviously Littlefinger that, has seen her.
Because he's in love with her.
Yeah. She's brought to a whorehouse. She gets pretty angry by it, and Littlefinger's like, oh, I didn't mean any disrespect. He was like, no one will think of you as being here, so like it seemed to be the best place to bring you. And she's like, well, how did you know I was here? And he said, a dear friend told me. And then Varys is standing behind some beads.
Like a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
How did he see me?
How did he see me? She asked him how he knew that she was coming. And he said, my little birds are everywhere, basically. And he's like,
Little bird.
did you bring the dagger? And she's like, oh, what?
Oh, what?
She was like, well, how do you know about that? And so he basically is like, oh, this is definitely Valyrian steel, but I don't know whose it is. I'm sorry. And Littlefinger starts laughing because he finally has outsmarted everyone in the room for one very small second. And he's like, oh, that was mine for a little while. And he says that last year on Joffrey's name day, there was a tournament. And he says that he bet on Jaime. And when Jaime lost to the Knight of Flowers, he lost the knife to Tyrion.
Yeah.
But Tyrion would never bet against Jaime.
Why not?
Because it's his brother. And he adores him.
That's true.
Why would he ever bet against his brother?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I was thinking that earlier, and I was like, but I didn't think about the fact that he adores him. I was thinking that maybe he just knew something about what was the guy's the Knight of Flowers?
Knight of Flowers, I think.
Yeah. Maybe he was.
It's been a little while.
Maybe he.
It's
Maybe he had some inside scoop on him and was like, "Oh, this dude's the shit."
No, I mean I think that's the setup.
Oh,
he's just Littlefinger. So Littlefinger knows it's his dagger, and Littlefinger knows that. I'm assuming that he did lose the dagger to Tyrion, but it was probably the other way around. He bet on Highgarden dude, and Tyrion bet on Jaime. And then they bet on someone else or something. They bet on someone.
And you're saying he ended up getting the knife there instead of losing it?
Well, that Tyrion still ended up with the knife. But because a Valyrian dagger doesn't really mean much to Tyrion, he probably just put it in with all the other swords and daggers that the Lannisters had. So the theory is that Joffrey just pulls out this Valyrian steel, gives it to this dude, and is like, go kill Bran. And it just happens to be that one.
Joffrey?
Yeah. That's the theory. That Joffrey has Bran killed or attempted to be killed because he's trying to prove something. I can't remember the whole thing.
Wow, it's very informative. He's trying to prove something? I thought it was like Cersei. It was like, well, we gotta kill this fucking kid.
Well, no. I think it's implied that it's Jaime, actually. that Jaime's the one that did it,
sent
but
the guy?
Jaime would never give a guy a Valyrian steel dagger that could be traced back to them.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It has to be someone stupid, which it would be Joffrey.
For sure.
Yeah. So, anyway, so that's definitely where Littlefinger is double crossing Tyrion. This is a made up story because there's no way that Tyrion would ever bet against Jaime.
Okay.
Yeah. So we cut to Castle Black. The new recruits are outside.
Looking like shit.
Yeah, not doing very well. Alistair is he keeps calling Jon Lord Snow, and he's like kind of taunting him, but also all the rest of them. He's making fun of everyone. He's just a dick in general.
Yeah, he's just there being a dick, and Jon's beating everyone's ass.
Yeah, and so he says, "Do you think that the Lord Stark's bastard bleeds like the rest of us?" So he keeps calling guys up against Jon. Jon keeps running things.
And he was like, "Oh, blah blah blah. This dude was brought up in a castle. Don't you want to kick his ass?"
Yeah. He says he finally stops then, and he just says, "Hey, Jon, you're the least useless person here." And it cuts up to Tyrion. He's like watching this with Commander Mormont, which is Jorah's father.
Yeah.
And Tyrion goes, "Charming man."
Yeah.
Commander, they talk for a few
It's
minutes.
like, I don't need him to be charming. I need him to turn these shitwads into like
men.
actual men of the Night Watch.
Yeah, and he's like, we need men. Like, that's all they're...
Bad, they're hurting.
Yeah. So he says a raven came for Ned Stark's son, which I don't know why you wouldn't just say Jon.
Whatever.
I guess to hit you over the head with who he is. But he gives it to Tyrion, and Tyrion's like, "Is it good news, bad news?" And he's like, "Both."
Why is everyone allowed to read people's messages before they get to them? I
Well-
was thinking this, like, it happened a couple times in this episode. I'm like,
So the Maester,
what the fuck is
the
it? How are you-
Maester gets the raven, and he reads it
why?
because
It's not
that's
for
his
you.
job. No, the raven it is. Well, it's not technically.
So you get your shit. So like you get this highly
some
personal
of them,
message.
Some of them, no, they go straight to him. But most of the time, the seal is broken.
Hey, you got a message. You're like, oh, great. Oh, by the way, your cat's dead, and your wife's fucking this dude. Oh, cool. Appreciate you reading it.
Yeah, thanks for reading.
It's a clock radio. Oh, it's clock radio. Oh, thanks for telling me.
Thanks for.
It's clock radio.
It's clock radio.
All right, what's next?
So Ned's walking through the throne room. He's leaving the meeting. Pycelle comes up, takes 45 years to hustle over to him, and then
Oh
hands
my
him a
god! And this
scroll.
does this dude?
He puts it on.
Oh, I know. Does he
Okay.
not? Does he not have like a Bill Cosby vibe to you?
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely he's supposed to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, Bill Cosby, he wasn't outed when the show started, so now that's all I can think when I see him now. And also I know like, later on you see him all stretching and like, he's actually
Yeah.
yeah
He's
Not-
very nimble.
the
Yeah.
old bitch. That's
Yeah.
like, okay. Oh, sorry. That
Well,
was
because everyone plays games in King's Landing.
yeah, a bunch of shit. It's just a
Well,
city
it's
full of
become a
shysters.
very dangerous place. So it's like you've had like 20 years pretty much of like some real crazy shit.
Well, just a bunch of inside
Manipulation.
scandals and
Mhm.
a bunch of bullshit going on instead of just a solid, this is how we're running things and we've got
Yeah.
an honorable king
Yeah.
and blah blah blah.
Exactly. Like if you read the history of Westeros, if you're a nerd like me,
Nerd alert.
Nerd alert. It talks about when those times happen. Sir Duncan the Tall. It's a story that George R. R. Martin wrote. It's actually a graphic novel.
Boom.
And it's actually pretty interesting. Small side note. Aemon Targaryen, who is Maester Aemon, who is at the wall, the old guy he's like 90 years old.
Super fucking old guy. He's
Well,
like
he's actually like
100,000
180
years old.
He's in those books.
Damn. Oh, that's
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
As a young man, younger guy.
Yes. Very young guy. So anyway, Pycelle finally gives Ned a scroll. It's from Winterfell. It's obviously the one saying like, "Hey, your son's awake,
Yeah.
but he can't walk." Littlefinger walks up and he asks if it's good news and if Ned may be interested in sharing the news with his wife. And Ned's like, "Ugh, she's at Winterfell." And Littlefinger is like, "Are you so sure?"
And it's like, why are you playing games?
Yeah, just
fucking
say
tell
it.
me.
Just say it. So Ned shows up at the whorehouse. As soon as he sees where he is, he gets super pissed and slams Littlefinger against the wall.
Oh, you're funny, man. Oh, you're funny, man. You're funny.
Funny.
And then she's like, yo.
She's like, yo, stop
baby.
it. So we go back to Castle Black. John is they're in like a makeshift like locker room, armor room area. And it's not really a makeshift, but he's basically jumped by the other guys in the yard because he broke Grin's nose. I think it was Grin's.
Broke my nose. It's like, well, you were attacking me.
Yeah.
So you were attacking me. All right, so we're even. So what?
Yeah. Tyrion enters and he starts talking to him. He's like,
do they put a knife up to his throat?
Yeah, they have a knife to Jon's throat. Sorry, I forgot that part.
Yeah, that was just a small little side note. They were about to murder him.
You know what? I couldn't take every note.
That's why there's two of us.
Especially when I have OCD and I want like to correct all my typing
Oh,
errors.
fuck that. You know what you're saying.
Yeah,
so,
anyway.
knife up to his throat. Tyrion walks in
And
like
he's
a
like,
boss.
Yeah, and he's like, you guys have very distinct faces, ones I will very much remember.
Because there's three of you.
Yeah. And so they're like, what's that mean? And he was like, well, it means that your heads would look nice on a spike.
Yeah.
So do you want that to happen?
He says, my sissy's the queen.
Yeah, like, so.
Please give me a reason to take that head off.
Yeah, exactly. So Jon says, everyone knew what this place was, but everyone knew what this place was, but no one told me but you. And Tyrion starts telling him, well, this guy was brought here because he did this thing for his sister. And then, just kind of breaking it down that not every guy here is
a complete piece of shit.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there's also dudes here that are, sweeties.
Yeah. And Jon starts to say, well, they don't like me because I'm better than them. And Tyrion's like, you're better than them because you had a master of arms who was able to teach you. Like, you had combat training. You had people to fight with who were on your level. Like, they've barely ever held a sword.
You also had a meal every night.
Yeah. And so he's like, look, you're not better than them. Basically, like, you need to help them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, as he's leaving, he's like, oh, Bran woke up.
Boom.
Everyone knows this before you.
Also, I read your note. P.S. I wrote your note.
P.S.
And
You know nothing.
He's just like walking around the wall later, and guys are like, hey, man, it's cool to hear your brother woke up, dude. Who the fuck are you again? I don't know. I just heard about the note. Yeah, I just heard about it.
He's just like,
the fuck? We got to get a new system.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
some bullshit.
yeah. So it cuts back to, it cuts to Littlefinger where Catelyn and Ned are. They're holding hands, and Littlefinger is being creepy in the corner.
Being a weirdo.
And he says, you'll be tried with treason if you accuse the Lannisters, so that's not the way to go. And Littlefinger's like, well, I can take care of it. And so Catelyn's like, well, Ned, we need to trust him. He's a true friend.
Super true.
Yeah, super good guy.
Not a weasel.
Yeah. And Littlefinger, of course, as he does, he was like, don't tell people that because I have a rep to keep.
Yeah, don't be telling people I'm a sweetie.
Can't have that. So then it cuts to Cersei and Jaime. She's like, what were you thinking? And he was like, I was thinking about us. And she was like, he's a 10-year-old boy, I think she says that. They're obviously talking about Bran and him waking up. And she's like, so what happens if it starts coming back to him? And Jaime says that it won't matter. He says, I'll go to war with Robert.
Yeah, pretty much it just sums up to he'll fucking kill everyone just so he can keep humping his sister.
That's true. The quote was the war for Cersei's cunt.
Boom.
Boom. She smacks him. I'm sure that just turned him on a little more.
For
that
sure,
smile.
and her.
Oh, yeah.
She probably enjoyed being called that.
Oh, I'm sure. So then it cuts to Catelyn. She's leaving. She's like, can I see the girls before I go? And he's like, nah, it's too dangerous. She openly, not in a whisper, is like, I know that the Lannisters did this. And it's like, shh.
Yeah, keep it down, sweetie. You
Yeah.
know where we're at?
They already knew you were coming before you even got here.
For sure.
Bring your voice down. Ned says, well, we can't do anything until we find proof. And he was like, once I find proof, I'll bring it to Robert. He'll listen to me.
This plan will work out perfectly. I'm sure of it.
Absolutely. They talk about Littlefinger and how he still loves Cat and how it's not creepy at all. And there's a final kiss goodbye. And then that's the last time they see each other.
And that's it. And that's that on that shit.
Yeah. So, and then it cuts to Robert. He's inside, talking to, the Knight Leader. I can't remember what that's called, but anyway, Lord Commander, I think.
Lord Commander?
Lord Commander, possibly.
Can't remember the guy's name.
It'll come to me.
All right.
He's dismissed later, and then he goes to Daenerys. We'll get there. That guy, you all know who he is. Robert says, it's been a long time, but I still remember every face. They're talking about the people they've killed.
Yeah, they're talking about war stories and like the first person they've killed and shit.
Yeah. Is it Bronn? No, that's not Bronn. Trying to think of his name. Anyway, Robert says the first guy he killed, or the first kid he killed, was a Tarly boy. He said he came running at him, thinking that he could end the rebellion with a single swing of his sword. Robert was like, I smashed into him and
with a hammer.
Yeah, with all this stuff. And then he was like, and as I stood over him with the hammer in the air, right before I brought it down, the boy shouted, "Wait." And he said, what they never tell you is how they all shit themselves at the end. And he said that's not included in any of the songs. And Robert talks about how now the Tarlys bent their knee and they just, serve the kingdom, or, to
saying
him.
if like,
He's like, that kid could still be alive and it wouldn't change anything.
and have a wife that doesn't like him and kids that don't like him. And
yeah, he said, stupid boy. He then yells for more wine, and Lancel,
little hoe bitch,
just the worst. And
the worst.
He comes over and he barely pours any in the cup. It's clear that the jug is empty.
And then he just stands there like he's gonna be okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, Lancel, what a stupid name. He's like, Lancel Lannister. Was someone stuttering when they named you or something? And he's like, what did you just put in my cup?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
And Lancel's like, it's empty. And Robert's like, what's that mean? And he's like, there's no more wine. And he's like, oh, is that what that means, huh? Go find some more, you asshole. Like, I'm the king. Go get more.
Oh, that character is the worst.
Yeah. And so as Lancel's leaving, Robert's like, hey, Kingslayer, come in here. And so he's like, dear God, I'm surrounded by Lannisters. Every time I close my eyes, I think of their blonde hair.
And then he's like, give us your first kill.
Yeah. And he says it was one of the arrowers for the brotherhood.
Oh, what did he say before you kill him? Or what did he say? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't know. I cut his fucking head off.
Yeah.
So, and that was his first kill. So Jaime was just like, oh, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it was clear.
Yeah, he's like a prodigy, right? He was like the shit.
He's a prodigy, and he was trained. It was like,
he's talented and trained.
Yeah, and he knew, because him and Cersei have been a thing since they were basically able to do that. And, well, they talk about how they were, like, in a relationship in the womb. So, he knew he wasn't ever going to marry anyone else. So
really not weird.
To fuck his dad over and be like, yeah, I'm not getting married. And his dad's like, yes, you are. You're my firstborn. Like, you're going to be the heir to this. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to join the King's Watch or Kingsguard.
Kingsguard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't play that shit. Yeah. I don't want this.
Yes.
I don't want your life.
I don't want it. So then Robert says, what about the Mad King? What did he say when you stabbed him in the back? And he said, did he call you a traitor? Did he plead for his life? And Jaime said that he said the same thing he had been saying for hours. Burn them all. After that, Jaime's like, anything else? Peace.
Yeah.
Just
burn them
out.
all, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. So we go over to the Dothraki Sea. Dothraki. They're riding, and Dany's kind of looking at the slaves that I guess they've just recently picked up. And she's like, do they pay, or how much money do they pay she say how much money they pay, or do they pay money?
I can't remember.
Or how do they make money? Either way, Jorah says, well, actually, they don't believe in money. Most slaves are given as a gift. He's like, this is what happens when the herd rides up. You either pay tribute or you fight. And if a Khal feels insulted, he may fight you anyway. And if he just feels like they want to fight, they'll probably fight you. So, best thing to do is just give some people to them. And hope they don't really feel like fighting.
There you go. Take these people.
Yeah. So we see a guy get whipped, and Dany's like, tell everyone to stop. And he's like, for how long? And she's like, until I say. And he was like,
now you're talking, girl.
Yeah, he was like, now you're acting like a queen. And she says, now I'm acting like a Khaleesi. Khaleesi.
Hell yeah.
So she walks into the grass. I don't really know what she's doing.
I don't know what she's doing either. I thought she was going to walk up to that slave and like give him some horse and be like, hey, it's all right. And then tell the dude to not fucking whip him anymore.
Yeah.
But that did not happen.
I don't know. I think maybe she was probably just going to pee. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
It just
How
happened
long
at a
should we
weird
stop?
time.
As long as I fucking need, bro.
Yeah, give me a second.
We get a serious pee going on out here.
So she stands there for a minute, just kind of staring at the grass, and she hears a noise, and out of nowhere, Viserys runs up on his horse. He jumps off, he grabs her, he's like, I'm not taking orders from you.
Oh, he was pissed.
Yeah, he was real pissed.
It's like word got back, because where would he have been in accordance to her? Like way farther back?
Yeah, I think he was back.
Because so like word spread down the line.
Yeah, like Khaleesi
we're stopping. She said we're stopping.
Yeah.
She said we're stopping. Pass it down.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Pass it down.
Fuck this. He was hot.
Yeah. Yes. And so the Blood Rider comes up. He ropes Viserys, and he's like, nah, I'm going to choke you. And he's like, do you want him dead? Because we can do this.
I would love to kill and possibly eat this dude right now.
Yeah. So while he's getting choked out, he's like, well, if you don't want me to kill him, can I take his ear? Because you should do that for respect reasons. And
take his ear.
Take his ear. And she's like, no, I don't want him hurt. And so as soon as the Blood Rider like lets go, Viserys like gasps for a few minutes, and he yells at Jorah, and he's like, kill this Dothraki dog.
He's a dog.
And Jorah just looks at him, looks at the Dothraki, and goes, do we need to return now, Khaleesi? I think we should go back.
And then he saw all of his power just drift away, even though none of them ever gave a fuck about him anyway. It's like,
yeah, but it's clear, but it's different that nobody gave him a fuck about him, but she's clearly the one that they're listening to now.
Oh, absolutely. But
so
I mean,
the power
even
dynamic
still,
for him has changed.
But he still thought he had something at some point because of his sister is dating.
He thought he had something because he's the rightful heir to the throne.
Yeah.
To the throne that is hundreds and thousands of miles away in a different
that
land.
No one gives a flying fuck about here. And this is where you are right now with what, 40,000 dudes?
Probably
40,000. So
yeah. And
none of them they don't give a shit about you.
Yeah, exactly. So he says, I'm your king. They all ignore him. She gets back on the horse. And as they're leaving, the Blood Rider, Viserys goes to get to his horse. The Blood Rider's like, and he's like, you walk. It's the only English this guy knows.
Punk bitch.
Yeah.
Crybaby ass is walking.
So as they walk away, we get a very insulted look from Viserys, and he's clearly pissed.
Oh, just wait till he rides his dragon.
Yeah, exactly. So we go back to Castle Black. It's snowy, obviously.
Oh, shocking.
Yeah, Joe.
Old
John.
Joe.
Oh,
I love Joe, man. Joe's probably most people's favorite character.
I think so.
Yeah.
John is going up to the top of the wall. It's a really long ride. As I said to Daniel, I wonder if the guy at the bottom is like, can you wait a little while to see if anyone else wants to go up? Because I really don't want to have to push your ass 600 feet up.
As soon as it gets down, the next dude's like, what's up? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, I mean, I got here. You were only 10 feet up, and I was going to yell, but I was like, you were already going.
Yeah, I would be pissed. That is not a job I want at the wall. And that guy didn't look necessarily that big.
We need a
so-
3-rider minimum.
Yeah. Seriously, you're gonna have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
So he finally gets up there. It's even colder, obviously. And he walks down one side of the wall and finally finds Benjen. They hug. John immediately, without saying anything, is just like, well, let me look over the edge of this thing real quick before I say a word to you. And Benjen says, well, I wanted to be here with the first time you saw it, the view over the wall.
Yeah.
And immediately he's like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, you
Pretty,
didn't-
huh? I'm out.
See ya. He said he's the first ranger. It's his job. His job is to be out there, not here. He says there's been some disturbing reports, and they're the kinds that he doesn't want to actually believe, but he needs to investigate. He tells John that he can't go because John's like, I'm ready. And it's like, dude, you're not even in the Night's Watch yet. And I give John a lot of leniency, but it's like, chill.
Yeah. Let's just pump the brakes for a second, sir. You've been here for how long? A day
A
or
month?
two?
No.
Oh,
there
they've
at
been there
least a
for like a
month.
minute?
Well, think how long. I mean, crew got to King's Landing. Well,
Oh.
and so did Catelyn. So it's
Oh, yeah.
actually probably been like 2 months or
Oh
so.
shit! Okay.
But he hasn't taken his vows yet.
Well, I didn't realize Tyrion stayed there for so long.
Yeah, because you're not gonna take that trip just to stay there for
I guess.
a day or
yeah, but
two.
it sucks there. So like, I guess I saw it, but okay, it sucks here.
Yeah, but Tyrion, what else he got to do?
I get find some chicks. What the fuck are you talking
Well, he's
about?
getting ready. There's a town nearby. He can go. It's like
Really?
a thing. Yeah, they all go down there and bang some chicks.
What do you mean they all? Who's they all?
The Night's Watch that don't really care about that part of their vow.
Oh, the ones that
Yeah.
like the sneaky ones.
Maybe John's urgency to get north is because he knows that sweet, sweet Ygritte pussy is up there.
Hell yeah.
It's
Hell
like, I know
yeah.
there's a redhead out there waiting for me.
So if there was like an 80s movie about the wall, you'd have like 5 dudes breaking out to go to this town and like find some chicks to fuck.
Yep. Yeah.
There'd be a funny one and like an athletic one, a fat one.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, Benjen tells him that, so John says he can go. He's better. He says, I'm better than, and Benjen's like, you're better than no one.
Better than
okay?
no one, bitch.
He's like, at the wall, a man gets what he earns when he earns it. And then he says the ominous words that pretty much everyone in this says, which if any of us know how Scream works, you never say things like this. But he's like, we'll speak on my return.
yeah.
All right, well, Ned said the same thing. So.
Which is code for, I gotta go turn into a super zombie man of the woods. I'll save you later.
Yeah, bye. So it cuts to the mess hall area where Tyrion is in there. He's talking to Yoren. They're talking about how a bear's balls taste.
Mm-hmm.
And Euron's like, hey, what's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? Or strangest thing? And Tyrion says, do Dornish women count? And he talks to Euron. He's like, so how do you recruit for the wall? And, they talk about how
He
goes
just
to-
scoops up jails or
Yeah.
this or that, whatever.
or people. He said sometimes they're actual lords who they're like the third son who it's like, well, I'm not gonna amount, like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get any
I'm
property.
I'm third string, dude.
Yeah, nobody
it's not
cares.
happening for me.
So like they can find some glory in the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
Because no one cares in the Night's Watch. You can be whoever you are. So, is there talking about it? And Tyrion's not really saying anything that bad about it, but Benjen is a Stark, so of course he hates Tyrion.
Absolutely.
So he enters and
He's got to come correct.
he acts just like Ned. Yeah,
Make him
he's
feel
like,
bad.
"Oh, you think that this is a joke, huh?" And and Tyrion's like, they talk a little bit, and Tyrion's like, "You don't have enough men to be an army." And Euron's your only funny one.
Yeah.
And Benjen says that half the boys Tyrion has met will die at the wall. Half the boys that he's met at the wall will die. And he says they'll die in pain. And they do that so plump little lords like yourself can enjoy the afternoon. And Tyrion turns to Yoren and is like, do you think I'm plump?
I love how it's pretty hard for him to be bested in any conversation.
He's just like, he understands, like Tyrion, he says it multiple
He
times,
knows what
but
he's
his
doing.
mind is what's his strongest attribute.
And he knows that he's a Stark. He knows exactly. He knew what he was going to say before he even
Lannister.
came in there. What?
Oh, you mean Benjen?
No, he knows that
sorry. I get what
Benjen-
you're saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew that as soon as he saw Benjen, what the
Absolutely.
attitude was going to be. And it's, Tyrion's smart, and his game, the game he plays, he uses his mind. So he's going to outwit you with words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the shit.
Yeah, so he, he's like, do you think I'm plump? Because it's like, well, I could respond in so many ways, but I'm going to take the I don't give a fuck route.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tyrion says, he's like, I don't know what I've done to offend you. I have great admiration for the men of the Night's Watch. But I don't believe that giants and White Walkers are beyond it. I just don't think so. He thinks that the only difference between, the people of Westeros and the wildlings is that they were born on the right side of the wall.
Yeah.
Benjen's like, and he has a point here. He's like, you've never been north of the wall, so don't tell me what's out there. All right.
But has he seen a giant? Has he seen a
we
White
don't
Walker?
know what Benjen's seen.
Why isn't he saying it?
Well, because Benjen's a Stark, and he only uses the words he needs to.
Oh, you gotta keep it all secretive.
Yeah, well,
even though you've seen a 20,
we'll speak
30
when
foot
I come
dude out there.
back. I'll keep my secrets.
See, I don't think he's
forever.
seen shit because he's saying he's hearing disturbing.
He's seen shit.
You think he's seen some shit?
Yes.
You think he's hung out with those giants?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah, they probably drank some beer together.
Yeah, he probably goes out there. He's probably got a couple wildling hoes he shacks up with for a while. He kicks it with the giants. He kicks it with the leader, that dope ass dude that we meet later. I can't remember his name.
The wildling leader?
Yeah, the guy that they burn.
Oh,
That guy's the shit.
if you wouldn't have yeah.
If I wouldn't have said that they burned him, you would have remembered his name.
No, if you wouldn't have brought him up, I could have told you his name.
Either way, we're jumping ahead. So
Yeah.
go back.
So
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. They're talking. Tyrion's talking to him. He's
yeah,
like,
Tyrion's just like, and again, Benjen has a point.
making him
like,
feel ungrateful.
I've been north of the wall. I know what's out there, or I know at least what I think's out there, or at least just don't tell me what's out there because you've never been there.
yeah.
And Tyrion's like, meh. And so,
Meh.
so Benjen's like, hey, I'm heading down below, and he tells Yoren to enjoy the capital. Tyrion, as he's leaving, Tyrion's like, I think Benjen's starting to like me. Yoren says, well, Benjen will be gone for about a month or two, which again is just more foreshadowing for he'll never be back. And Yoren confirms that he's heading to King's Landing tomorrow, and Tyrion's like, let's travel together.
Let's drink and make each other laugh.
Yeah. So he confirms that and
he
going
was like,
down below means
I was just gonna say that the one guy, what was the guy's name? Urine
urine.
was like, oh, I'm like,
I think it's urine, but I say urine.
urine. He was like, oh, I travel like a piece of shit. He's like, oh, not this time, baby.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it up right.
Yep. So we cut to Dany. She's getting her hair braided. She's trying to learn Dothraki, or Dothrakin.
Who knows?
Dothraki.
Whatever.
And her handmaiden just reaches over and grabs her boob. It's like out of nowhere. And she's like, when was the last time you bled? And she's like, you're pregnant.
Changing.
It's a great blessing. And so we cut to Joran. He's talking to the Blood Rider about the difference between the Dothraki blade and a sword. The Blood Rider's like, well, armor makes a man slow. And Jorah's like, yeah, but it also keeps a man alive.
Yeah, it makes them alive too.
Yeah. And then they start talking about the Blood Rider's father, Cal Babaro.
I think it was Bambi or
Yep.
Babar.
Babar. We'll go with Babar. And he asks if Jorah's father is alive, and Jorah says he was a great man, and I disappointed him. And so then the handmaiden comes in, and she's like, hey,
She's got a bun in the oven.
well, she's like, she doesn't want to eat horse, and they start arguing about that, and then finally she's like, she's pregnant, so she doesn't want to eat horse.
Like, get some rabbits.
Yeah.
And what else did they ask to get?
Duck.
Yeah. Get
Duck,
a goddamn duck.
I can't even remember what. Dog.
She's like, and then
Get that fucking dog.
Jorah was like, she ain't gonna want dog, bro.
Yeah. So she's like, well, and Jorah gets super weird because, of course, he's the one that tells, he's the one that's spying on Daenerys for Robert. And so he's like, I'll get her some goat. I need to take a ride real quick. I'll be back and meet you guys later. So he like gets really weird, and he's like, we'll make sure she gets a goat.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'll meet you.
All right, weirdo.
Yeah. So
Not saving you any goat.
yeah, exactly. So we go back to not King's Landing, to Castle Black. The boys are in the yard again. Oh, the boys are in the yard. And but this time Jon starts helping them as opposed to just beating them.
Yeah, he's like, you need to fucking move. You're moving too much.
Yeah. Tyrion is talking to Maester Aemon, and they were talking about winners, like how have you ever seen how many winners have you seen? And Tyrion says 8, and then he's like, I think 9. And then Maester Aemon's like, oh, they've all been brief, and he said that he thinks that the first one was 3 years long, the year he was born.
Yeah.
And Maester Aemon's like, well, winter's definitely coming, and with it, dark things. And then he says, the wildlings have seen White Walkers, and he's like,
they're all fleeing south.
Yeah, and he's like, we only have like less than 1,000 men in the Night's Watch, and we barely have enough to take care of them, and we really need your help. So you need to tell your sister and get people up here. And he then says, when winter does come, God's help us if we're not ready.
When it does?
When it does.
Yeah, because he's like, well, Starks are right.
Yeah.
But winter's always going to be coming at some point, so they're always fucking right.
Well, but
it's like a broken clock.
But to them, winter can be several years long, and it's pretty devastating when it can be several years long, because only the southern areas can grow crops because they don't get the actual coldness. And if the long night comes, which is what the fear is, because they've heard these tales of the long night where winter lasted generations.
But what's changing? What's different this time that they don't think this one's just going to be like a year-long winter?
Because the wildlings are coming, because of the signs are coming, but the direwolves are seen north of the wall. The wildlings are coming.
That was another one.
Yeah, there's signs of the White Walkers. There's reports of the White Walkers. All the signs are there. Maester Aemon, again, he's not old enough to have been around for the first long night, but he's of the age of, like, we listen to these stories. The Night's Watch was a big deal when he first joined it. So for him, it's like we listen and we observe because our goal is to protect, because this is the whole thing we're protecting against. Is this happening again?
It would be interesting to see that portrayed. The Night's Watch when it's like at its peak.
It would be awesome to see that.
That would be fucking sick.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
Yeah.
It would be so interesting to see the stuff that George R.R. Martin has written about the prehistory to, like, where we are in Game of Thrones. I would love to see, like, it's like you have so much information and so much data that you could make shows on.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see all that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we digress. So we go to Dany and Khal Drogo. They're just hanging out naked. She says it's a boy. He says, how do you know? She says, I just do.
She's like, I know.
Yeah. End scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little quick one.
So we cut to Tyrion. He's pissing off the side of the wall, as he said he wanted to.
For sure.
Excuse me.
Got to get that in before you leave.
The edge of the world. Jon just waits behind him while he does that. Tyrion says Jon says he's sorry to see Tyrion leave, and Tyrion's like, well, it's either me or the cold, and the cold doesn't seem to be going. So Jon asks if he'll stop at Winterfell and to tell Bran that he misses him. They confirm that Bran will never walk again, and Tyrion's like, well, at least he's a rich crippled. It's better than anything.
Damn right.
Yeah.
You'd be fucked if you're on the streets.
Yeah, and then Tyrion leaves. So we go to Arya. She's meeting up with a man. He says, you're late, boy.
Yeah. Boy.
He's the dancing master, Cerilio Farrell, I think is how you say it.
Sure.
He says he throws a sword at her and she drops it, and he's like, tomorrow you will catch it. And he previously, when he says you a late boy, he says tomorrow you won't be. And so then he says tomorrow you'll catch that. And so he keeps calling her boy and telling her that she can't do anything right. You can't do anything right.
You can't do anything. Whoopah.
he says that one hand is all that's needed to hold it. It's not a great sword. He says that, oh, your smaller skinny's good. Targets, smaller area to
hit.
stab. He says that grip must be delicate and you must hold the sword like it's part of your arm. You can't drop your arm, can you? He says that he was the first sword of Braavos, and he tells her it doesn't matter if she's a boy or a girl. He says what you are is a sword.
I think it's Jaqen.
Agreed. And
which would be fucking sweet.
Jaqen J. Will. Jaqen J. Will. Yeah, it would be sweet. He says that this is not the dance of Westerosi, the Westerosi. He says we're learning the Braavos dance. And he says it's the water dance. It's swift and sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he
Smooth.
says, did you know that all men are made of water? And if you pierce them, the water leaks out and they die. And he's like, try to hit me.
Simple words.
Yeah. And she tries and fails many times. And she finally catches the sword when he throws it at her. At one point, he knocks it out of her hand. And he tosses it to her, and she catches it correctly, and he's like, "Ha!" So you see her starting to understand, starting to learn what's happening. But as they're doing it, the best way to learn is to actually be involved. So as they're doing it, she's just kind of trying to counter him, and he's like, "Dead, very dead,
super dead."
Yeah. Ned's watching on as this happens. He has kind of a smile on his face when he sees, because obviously Arya's enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then he starts hearing,
it's a little PTSD kicks in.
Yeah, and he starts looking pretty nervous.
Bummed.
And that's the end of the show.
End scene.
End scene.
Yeah. I don't obviously once we start watching them I remember them, but I don't really remember the episodes, so I
normally
remember.
About this time I would start rereading the books, but because we have the podcast, I don't have any time, so it's kind of to me it's like a brain teaser to try to be like, hold on, who are you again? Before they say it, I'm like, hold on, like Alistair. I was like, what's your last name? And I was like, oh yeah, Thorne.
Well, it's interesting because I'm watching it, not remembering it, but then everything they're talking about, I know everything they're talking about. I know what's going on. I know all the characters. I know they threw 1,000 fucking names out, and I knew who. I knew everyone they were talking about. So it's
nice watching it with a kind of an index of what this stuff is.
It's definitely nice, and it definitely is understandable when people are like, I couldn't get into that show.
Yeah.
It's well, that makes sense. I mean, you really have to give it the whole season, maybe have a book person with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people text me and be like, hey, who is this person again? And I'm like, let me give you a brief description.
Yeah, because if you know what's going on, it's definitely more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of people. I've had multiple different people who I was surprised that were actually watching it, who were like, can you just help me through this? And I'm like, sure. And they've said it's nice to have somebody like you who I can just be like, what's this? And I had a friend who met a girl on Tinder who apparently was a big Game of Thrones nerd, and he didn't watch the show, and so he's like, can you help me with some pickup lines? That one was my favorite.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I was gonna throw a bad joke in there, but I'm gonna let that one just lay.
I kind of want to know it, but
No, we don't need it.
That's
Anywho, shit, I was gonna say something else though, but go ahead. You got anything?
No, I'm good.
I think I'm done with this one. I really want to eat another one of those blueberry muffins. But besides me wanting that, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode and listen to Murd Up.
Yeah.
If you like true crime, you like murder stories, that's our other podcast, murduppodcast.com, or all the podcast apps.
All of them. We just did an episode on a Virginia situation. And so if you're local, you'll probably remember it.
Oh, 100% remember it.
So maybe I shouldn't have said that because we don't know when this is going to go out, but whatever.
Who gives a shit? It'll still be there. All right, folks, until the next one.
Bye.
See you later. Peace out.
Bye.